You're listening to Ernestly Speaking, the only weekly podcast that covers friends, foes, and anything that goes. And now, for your badass host, Ernest Owens. And we're back for another episode of Ernestly Speaking with your host, Ernest Owens. It has been, a great week, month. I am super elated about everything. I hate hiding secrets from you all, and I think that's been always the thing, right? You know what I'm saying? I just have so many things I want to say, but I can't say anything at this moment, but it's all good news. And, I think when I last left off of the podcast, last episode, I said that your prayers are working, and they definitely have. I asked for thoughts and prayers because I had something up in the air. That is something I've really wanted. And I have achieved victory in that department. And I am sworn into secrecy. I can't say anything about it at all. So I just have to pretty much be quiet. And I so badly can. I'm good at keeping secrets because as a journalist, you have to keep secrets, right? That's how it works. So I'm actually good at teasing you all and doing that because I respect the law and the process. As a journalist, there's so many things I sit on a regular basis anyway. But when it comes to stuff about myself and it's good news, it's like hard to do that. No, I'm not having a child. I'm not having a shotgun wedding. Let's just dismiss all of that immediately. But it's my life is going to be forever changed. It's a life-changing thing. My life will never be the same at this point. And so I'm mentally preparing myself for the reality of that. And I just want to say that to all of my real day ones and friends that I've been friends with for ever before all of this will come out. I know who you are, and you know who you are, and you know who you are to me. And that's important. And for all of you listeners, you early listeners of the podcast, before the thing happens, quote unquote, which will be soon, I think within the next couple of weeks, if not sooner, I think this announcement is going to come back very, very soon. For all of you all who are in that category, I just want to say thank you. And there'll be a bunch of people that will claim that they were huge fans of mine and supporters before this. And you all know who you really are. And so from the bottom of my heart, I just say thank you. And thank you for just supporting all of the work I've been doing thus far and will continue to do on a different level. Just FYI, I am not leaving Philadelphia. So I can say that. I'm not leaving Philadelphia. But I definitely won't be in Philadelphia all the time as much as I used to, but I'm going to shut up now. Okay, so things I can't talk about. Wedding planning, because some people want to get those updates. Wedding planning has been going on great without a hitch. It's been fun. I've had the fun of getting the groom's people. And let me say why I say groom's people. I'm going to tell you about that in a minute. So I have designed alongside of my lovely fiance, who actually was more of the bigger architect in some of this, but we basically designed the groom's people's tuxedos. And we have a color theme. As you all know, it's going to be like a royal blue situation. But we went to Men's Warehouse and, we're not doing, okay, so we're not doing Men's Warehouse. Barry and I aren't. We're going to get these custom tuxes done by this incredible Black designer in Philadelphia, Zavi Rowe Bespoke. I think that's the company, and they're based in Philadelphia. And the guy is incredible. I mean, he makes the best types of suits. I've seen his stuff before. He makes great tux. He has a design concept for us that is just fabulous. And we're super excited to be able to have that opportunity. And I'm really elated about it and stuff like that. So this is, a perfect situation that I believe this would be great to expand upon my fashion because Lord knows my fashion has had its moments, and not in a bad way. I think each era, I love my how my fashion has evolved. I have gone through various looks, and for those who've been friends with me since my college years, and a lot of my friends from college, you all know my unitard days, my gold, my leather, okay, the glossy era. It's definitely been a complete evolution, and not to say things were bad and something got better. It's just that I've grown in different types of moods and things. I had, things were very high. There was lots of skin, there was lots of mesh, there was lots of leather. There was lots of neon back then, lots of shimmer, pop, okay, and it was a butch, femme butch. I was giving very much butch queen energy, and so that was the element of everything, was that it was the my fashion was very much so, um you know I was more liberal. I mean, I had a mohawk back then, guys. I what else did I do? I had wavy hair. I did the curls. I did the pompadour. That was during the Miguel, like, uh, kaleidoscope love era, that dream era, when he was like really giving that energy. And so I was very much inspired heavily. I was doing soft punk rocker energy. I had all of that. Then I went through the denim era, which was inspired by Rihanna. Everything was denim, ripped denim, denim shoes. Denim. I love me some denim. And I love denim as a Texan because I used to wear denim heavy when I was growing up. And so then when that was the trend, I was into that denim jackets, denim, everything denim. And then I went through this phase of like neutral phase, like everything was very much so like solids, but everything was button up. And I was getting more performance in my fashion, like, and I got a little bit more professional. So then the cut went down a little bit. I was still doing a little bit of light corals, but like faded with a nice part. And now my fashion has gotten very loungy, but I think that's because of the pandemic. So I've worn more sweatpants. I'm wearing like cute oversized sweaters. I'm doing a lot of that Ariana Grande look, a little bit of Taylor Swift in there, comfortable loungy wear. But I'm looking forward to getting back to wearing, my denim and button ups, but a little bit more, a little bit more pop. So we're gonna see, where the trends take me. But uh, but now I am getting ready for the wedding. So the groom's people. So I'm saying groom's people because there is one woman in the wedding party that is going to be wearing a tux, and so I'm just mindful not to say groomsmen because all the men are not wearing, well, all the men are wearing tux in the wedding, but not all the women are wearing tux in the wedding. So I just say groom's people. And where that came from was inspired by city council. So now everyone is saying council member or council person. They don't say councilman or councilwoman anymore. It's 2021, y'all. You know how it goes. So people are saying, so now people will say council member Helen Gim versus councilwoman Helen Gim. But there are still, I mean, let me be very clear. There are still council members who will refer to themselves as councilwoman or councilman because they just, listen, they like, you can, they're okay. And if and listen, people have the right to self-identify, right? Like everything can't be they, them if the person doesn't identify with non-binary pronouns. So if a person says, identify me as she, her, he, him, that should be, I mean, and I don't think, let me be clear, there's no fight there. I'm just saying that everybody can designate what their, how they want to be identified. I think that's fair. And so I have met, more senior council members who have said, I am Councilwoman Maria Quinoa Sanchez, right? They love the power, especially a lot of women I met, they love the power to say councilwoman because, there was at one point in time, not that many councilwomen, quote unquote, in city council. So they really do they don't want the erasure of the word woman into the council title. So, genders, modern gender talk, right? So that's why I said groom's people, because my groom's people are going to be wearing tuxedos, and tuxedos will not be defined by gender experiences of whatnot. So that's why I say that. But yeah, I am super excited. The tuxedos are like a dark navy blue. There's a gold vest and bow tie. We got this nice soft paisley design because I love paisley. Oh, and also at the paisley era. in my fashion, which I'm still pretty much into paisley, but I used to be heavily paisley. Um, Someone I knew many years ago called me the Prince of Paisley because of just how much I wore it. And some of you all can go in my old photos and recognize that era. I always called it the retro sexy era, which was very much blazers, popping, bold, colorful blazers with, that were subtle, like solid colored blazers with paisley shirts that popped. And I'm still dressing like that. I mean, if I find some paisley shirts, I'm a sucker for it. Like if I find a good paisley shirt, I will buy it. Colors, colors. I like designs. I like colors. I like patterns. And I never knew what that was, but like I love paisley. Like that is still my design scheme. Like you'll see tons of pictures of Barry and I when we go out, and it'll be a paisley design, and it'll be me in a solid blazer, some blue or red or something in between. I love paisley. So I love paisley. I love prints. I think that's like once the pandemic, when I can start going out for real, you're gonna see me return to like really bold prints and solid blazers. And like I said before earlier, I love American Eagle. That's where I go, man. I get the real good prints, and I love to like be bold. So the tux are done for the groom's people. They're super excited because everybody's wearing the same exact thing except myself and my lovely fiance. We're both going to be wearing a custom tux, and we're going to do red bottoms, but that was his choice. Red bottoms, Louboutins. He was very adamant on that. And me, I'm the budget queen. I was like, oh my God, I went to Liberty Place the other day and I saw these beautiful shoes from Aldo. And I was like, oh my God, these are going to be what we're going to wear to the wedding. And he was like, red bottoms. So I'm probably going to get those shoes, and we're probably going to wear them for like the rehearsal dinner. But look at me thinking ahead. So long story short, wedding is fabulous. Wedding is going good as planned, and some major moves are going to be on that front very, very soon. So, and news that is kind of sad, not kind of sad, really sad. As you know, the last time I did the podcast, I talked about DMX, who was at that time in critical condition, but he had not been pronounced dead. Well, as you all know, DMX, Earl Simmons, he has passed away at 50. And my mother's 50, and 50, that's such a, it's a half a century. His passing, man, it's sad. He had so many children. He left a mark in hip hop. A lot of people talk about it. Just the fact that he was someone who really talked a lot about his pain, but yet he always had the sporadic joy of youth. He always had this youthfulness within all of that pain. He always had this joy. I just looked at a lot of videos he did. He loved his old school videos, like videos of him dancing to old school songs. Like there was a video of him dancing to Lisa Lisa, one of her old classics. For those who know who Lisa Lisa is, she is a legend. And he sung one of her hit songs, and all cried out with nothing to say. That's a hit. Anyway, Lisa Lisa was a legend, and she's still alive. And she, that song, All Cried Out, is the jam. I was listening to a lot of old school jams lately, and shout out to Versus that had that incredible Earth, Wind, and Fire and Isley Brothers Versus competition a couple of weeks ago. I am still listening to that music. I was Team Isley Brothers, but let me say this: Earth, Wind, and Fire was fire. Okay, can I just tell Philip Bailey, legend? So sidebar, I'm a big, huge Phil Collins fan. And okay, like there are white artists that are out in music that Black people just have a special relationship with. I'm trying to think of a couple that we just like. Well, we had one with Justin Timberlake before I canceled him, right? But like, no, people like, we love Tina Marie, okay? We love, Kenny Rogers. There's a love for Kenny Rogers in the community. We love a lot of people, but definitely love, Tina Marie. But Phil Collins is also on that list. We got love for Phil Collins. We got love for Dolly Parton, right? There's some people we just have a special sweet spot for, but they're also decent people, good people too. And Phil Collins, man, what a soundtrack, man. His music. I know his music. Like I grew up like listening to his music. My mom loves him. And can we just like a moment of pause for the Tarzan soundtrack? Like one of the greatest soundtracks of all time. Like the Tarzan soundtrack is like everything. Okay, even the songs that are not make like major hits, like Son of Man, is is everything. Okay, like people sleep on the latter end of the Disney Renaissance era, but let's be clear. Tarzan is a part of the Disney Renaissance. It was a part of the 90s. It was came out in 1999, all right? And everything kind of went like downhill after 1999. I mean, Emperor's New Groove is a classic, came out in 2000. Yes, I'm also like a Disney like historian too, next to Leonard Maltin, who's a better historian clearly. But I also love Disney films and can talk about the Disney Renaissance because I was born in that era. You know, I was born that era. So and I was born that era. I was born in 1991, and that was the year Beauty and the Beast came out. So that was a very major era for me, and loved it. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, you know what I'm saying? I would say you know, yeah, I would say it was always a perfect opportunity to listen to his music, to be inspired, and really kind of just explore various sounds of pop music in ways that he did. He's just versatile, and he's still killing it, man. Phil Collins, everything. But anyway, there was a song, a group was Genesis that he had, and he sung a song called Easy Lover. I did not know Philip Bailey. Of course, I was not even conceived when Easy Lover first came out. But Philip Bailey and him collaborated on that song, and I didn't know that. I remember looking at the video, I was like, who's that black guy? And I didn't realize that Philip Bailey was a part of Earth, Wind, and Fire, and like there was a connection there, and like that's what happened. I didn't know all of that. So I was just wowed out when he was killing it, killing it. And also what I did not know was that I knew some of this, but I didn't know all of this. But the Beatles, god damn it, you all praise the Beatles. The Beatles was doing nothing but a lot of Isley Brothers covers. And so when I found out, I said, you know what? But a lot of white bands and groups did that to a lot of black artists and stuff. So Isley Brothers, pioneers, the originals, okay? They were so hot that the Beatles did covers to their music, okay? That's how important the Isley Brothers is. And let's not even start with Ron Isley, who, oh my goodness, Mr. Biggs, like Contagious, we know who else is on Contagious. Fuck Robert, and y'all know who he is. Outside, the Contagious is a Mr. Biggs, Ron Isley song. It features that other guy who is in that song. But to be honest, Contagious was always incredible because of none other than Ron Isley and the Isley Brothers, and that music and that sound. Okay, Ernie, killing it on the guitar, killing it. They're out here pushing it. I mean, when I was hearing both Earth, Wind, and Fire's music and the Isley Brothers music, I was just listening and I was just like, these are all songs that have been used as instrumentals and covers for all of our favorite rappers and all of our favorite musicians over the past decades. That is timeless music. And I'm not saying that young people are not making great music. I mean, clearly there's some great people out here. But it's, man, that, first of all, one of my songs, okay, Voyage to Atlantis, melts my heart. Melts my heart. But then I love, I'm going to butcher the title of the song, but it's Make Me Say, Girl Make Me Say. That, when I talk about crooning, like vocal crooning, harmonization that will make you feel seductive. Every time I hear that song, I say that's a grown song. That's the kind of song that I don't even feel old enough to be listening to. I remember one night, this was a couple months ago, I had a playlist, and I'm a big, huge YouTube music subscriber. Like I don't do Apple Music. I love YouTube Music for some reason. But I was listening to I listened to the old school song. It was inspired. I was in the car with one of my besties. Well, actually, it was Sharon and Lauren. We was in the car. And they're gonna remember this if they listen to the podcast. We went to the opening of Prime Rib at Casino Live. And after that night, we was having a conversation about mistresses and things of that nature, which the AP guide now says you can't say mistress if the woman or the person is been in a long time relationship with the person where they was getting financially benefit And I was like, what? That's not mistress. That if it's an extra, okay, AP Style Guide, okay, Associated Press, side piece it is, side John it is. But anyway, we were talking about this, and we were talking about this legendary song called "Woman to Woman," and the "Hey Barbara" is Shirley, or "Hey Shirley" is Barbara. I can't remember how it goes, but that's an iconic song. And so I was listening to it, and so I was listening to that song, and it was "Woman to Woman." Listen, that is a real song, okay? Listen, and there was other one that was like, I was loving my man, I was learning my man while I was loving my man, something your young girls don't understand. No pain, no gain. Listen to that too. But we were just talking about how the old school songs, the old school mistress gang. But anyway, while I was listening to these songs, all the oldies was going through, and I just kept it playing in my ear. And then here come this song. Mm, 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 mm. I really make you say, oh, make you say, oh, oh, my, oh, oh. Anyway, I'm doing a terrible impersonation, but listen, those harmonies, listen, Ron Isley, listen, I was ready to throw my boxers on the floor invisibly. Anyway, I love that music. I digress. What was I talking? I was talking about DMX, and I got into Lisa as I talk about old school jazz. But anyway, I feel the same way DMX feels when he listens to old school music. It is something about it that gets you in your groove, and God rest that man's soul. And he lived a long life that made an impact on a lot of people. He was an icon. So he will be missed, very much so. And we just gotta preserve our legends, man. Listen to their music while they're living. Give them their flowers while they're living. I think we did that for DMX. I think DMX had did verses earlier this year. I mean, he is still highly regarded. I mean, people appreciate DMX throughout his life and all of his hardships and his struggles with addiction and everything else. He is definitely an impeccable talent and should be remembered for sure. So I don't know what to say anymore on this topic. And so Dante Wright. Dante Wright was another innocent black man who was shot by an officer in Minnesota and lost his life. This is going to keep happening until it's going to keep happening. It's just going to keep happening. And I don't know what to say. So he was shot, by an officer in the Brooklyn Center, Missouri, which is about 10 miles from where Derek Chauvin is on trial for killing George Floyd. He was 20 years old. It was during a traffic shot. And this is happening while Minnesota is currently in protest, currently, having it. Apparently, the police tried to detain him. He stepped back into his car. There was some brief struggle with the officers that the chief said, right? But the body camera footage shows one officer was pointing a handgun at him and shouting taser. After the car pulls away, the officer yells an obscenity and says, I just shot him. So they tried to say it was an accidental shooting. Fuck out of here. He died of a gunshot wound to the chest. He was 20 years old. He did not run. He had a child that was almost 2 years old. He was a freshman He was voted the class clown when he was a freshman at Thomas Edison High School. He was like any other kid. The crazy thing is that George Floyd's girlfriend was one of his former teachers. The person who shot him is a 48-year-old white woman named Kim Potter. She's been in the service of 26 years. She resigned, and also the police chief resigned as well. But let me tell you fucking something. It does not fucking matter. Resignations mean nothing. Now she's being charged for second-degree manslaughter. Not second-degree murder. Second-degree manslaughter. Unacceptable. Unacceptable. And it's just, it's one of those things where it's like, I don't have anything poetic to say. I don't have anything sophisticated to say. I just there's nothing more gorgeous than fuck the police. There's nothing more gorgeous than fuck the police. I can't say anything more articulate than fuck the police. I defund the police. Because the history of black people in this country being killed for lies, violence, it's just terrible. A white lady said he whistled at her. Those Skittles look like a gun. He was sleeping in a car in the drive-thru. He maybe tried to use a fake $20 bill. That cell phone looked like a gun. She left her front door open. He had a legal firearm in his car. He was selling Lucy cigarettes. That pill bottle looked like a gun. He was sitting on his sofa eating ice cream. She failed to signal a lane change. He was walking down a street with a friend. He was selling CDs and DVDs. She was sleeping in her own bed. He was in his grandmother's backyard. Those sandwiches looked like a gun. He was unlocking his own front door. He had an air freshener. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Those were 18 ways that black people have been killed based on the ignorance, the racism, the bias, and every other fucking thing you can say by police, by lies, by vigilantes, by hatred, by the state. 18 for excuses, for humane reasonings that did not make them a threat if they would have been white. All of those people that were at their 18, all those 18 instances, whether they were the names of Sandra Bland, Trayvon Martin, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Alton Scott. The list goes on. And it's going to keep going on. Alton Sterling, sorry. So many. I can't even get their last names right. It's so complicated to be not a black person. Racism is complicated. It's being black is not exhausting. Being in a society that is racist is exhausting. We need to start changing our vernacular. I need to sip. I had to sip something, y'all. I had to sip something. I have made a point to myself, that I'm not going to argue anymore with idiots about racism. I had a moment because a guy named Matt Walsh, who has a podcast, that's a hit podcast actually, even though he's a fucking idiot, because the conservatives and racists, when you look at the Apple podcast charts, which I'm gratefully on, I'm always often the top 200. Thank you for listening to a Black Voice on podcasting, because it's not often that there is news commentary, Black voices doing news commentary in this podcast space that has a charting podcast. So I thank you all for listening to it. But when I look on that top list, you got people like Megyn Kelly and Matt Walsh and um, all these conservatives, Glenn Beck, Bill O'Reilly, that have podcasts where they're saying the same fucking shit, acting like they don't know that racism exists, yet they stroke racial insecurity and animosity and talk about it all day to make money, but then say it doesn't exist. But their entire premise of their success is built off of talking about race, and yet they say it doesn't exist or it doesn't matter, but they spend all day bitching about it. And I'm supposed to sit up here and think it's fine that conservative opinions are just different opinions. And even in the racism of it all, Candace Owens' podcast doesn't even chart the same way their podcasts do, even though she placates their white supremacy. But they say racism doesn't exist. And so there's all these false narratives. And I just want to say this because I'm so over the lies. I'm so over the misinformation. So this Matt Walsh says that since the beginning of 2020, he says over 500 white people have been killed by the cops compared to fewer than 300 black people. Yet there hasn't been a single protest against, white police officers be killed. Well, you know why that's the case, Matt Walsh? Let's break this down on so many damn levels. And maybe you could tell your friends, white people who are thinking this type of ignorance. Maybe it's because of the fact that white people aren't actually scared of the police because they don't fight against the police system, because they don't think that the police killing those white people are actually bad guys, or they want to protest against the police state. They don't see the injustice in that. So, if y'all do want to throw protests, you can, but there were actually instances where there was a white woman who was killed by the police and there were protests for her. People don't do their research often. And so it's so funny that, even in the attempt to try to create racial division, right? And try to, create this bigotry and this lie, the research says otherwise though. But I don't think Matt Walsh wanted to use it because he didn't want to actually have to be accountable for the illogical factors. So this whole narrative about what black people aren't doing or comparing these cases, the information is false. People love to do this compare and contrast around the math, but the crazy part is that the whole premise to which this person said this, people don't do their research. Caroline Small, who was a white woman, was killed by deputies in Glenn County, GA, and there was fallout and protest. Okay, Caroline Small was a white woman who was shot by the police in Glenn County, Georgia. And they protested for her. But he wasn't going to Google that because at the end of the day, that's not what he do, right? We forget there has been folks who have spoken out against police power that was not all just people of color, not just black and brown people. But, Matt Walsh is on this. But the important, interesting fact, and this is the part that is the most interesting, the math. So 60% of America is white. Only 60.1% of the United States is white. And this is white that is non-Hispanic. This is just, white people. Then there is 12.2% of the population is black, which means that there is a 47.9% difference between the percentages, which therefore means that there is pretty much about where do I start? Nearly a 500% difference. There are 500% more white people than black people in the United States, based on the percentage numbers, the population numbers. That's the math. That's the ratio. Is a 5-1 ratio. And so for there to be a 5-1 ratio, even though there is literally between the numbers, exponentially, black people are being killed by the police at a faster rate than white people, if you do the math. 300 black people was killed, fewer than 300 black people, and 500 white people. Why are those numbers so near, even though the population is vastly different? But again, you have to be in a mindset where he doesn't understand the radical thinking. So logically speaking, if there were more black people in this country, there would be an exponential number of black people being killed than white people. That is the proportion. That is the ratio. That is the mathematical issue. And that is shaped by racial bias. So you're over here treating these numbers as if there is the same population of white people and the same population of black people. And you're trying to say, compare it when you're not skewing in ratio. So you're saying more white people, but how many more white people are there than black people? Scale it down, motherfucker. He doesn't know how to do math. And so I said this to him. And he was in his feelings. He was in his bag. He tried to clap back with me with this conversation around, well, there are more black people arrested than white people. So that is why they're having these encounters with the police. And I had to push that motherfucker back again and say, well, excuse me, but how are you making that logic? Because here's the crazy thing. There are racists in this country right now that are arguing that there's a disproportion of black crime, which is why there's a disproportionate rate of cops killing black people. But what if I told y'all that racial bias in policing is behind all of those stats, given a disproportion of white cops? And also historical history, right? That the disproportion of cop representation is that there's a majority white cops which have racial bias, which is what's leading them to kill it. But you have to believe racism doesn't exist to even argue it. So then why did I argue with him? Which is why I'm at a point where I am no longer about to argue. I'm no longer arguing. I'm just not, unless I'm getting paid to engage in an intellectual conversation, which is, I don't even know how they're intellectually arguing more white people about racism, but if there was sweat equity and pay that would speed up the process of me getting things to take care of my wedding or my business, whatever the fuck it would be, I need to see equity. And I'm not doing it for free. And that's something that I have told myself, and I'm going to hold myself to it, because sometimes as black people, and even any group, but like really as black people, you feel this pressure. But white people, y'all got this. Y'all got this. Yeah, it's time for y'all to step the fuck up. I said this a year ago. I wrote a piece at your Philly Mag that was really popular. I said, white people, I still don't believe you. And that was in June 2020. And it's April 2021. And I still don't believe white people. I still don't, collectively. Because every time we have these arguments, where y'all at? Where y'all at? Where are y'all at in fighting this? And there's, I guess, some, right? The Ben and Jerry folk, which we'll talk about later in the show. But there's some, right? But I need not to be some. I need more. Until then, here we go again. So speaking about here we go again, Lena Waithe. Lena Waithe has this new show on Amazon Studios. Amazon Prime, through Amazon Studios. Let me just say this right now. Let it be very clear. Do not watch the show Them. Do not watch the show Them. It's called Them. Do not watch it. I know it looks like a Jordan Peele film like Us or Get Out. It's none of that. Do not watch it. It's a horrible show. It's a problematic show. Do not support it. Do not encourage it. The more you watch the show, the more they think this is what the fuck we want to watch. And what I mean, us as a society, specifically black people, this show is horrible. And it's so horrible that it's the kind of horrible show where I really need you all not to watch it to see how bad it is, but just to take my word on it. It does not deserve any views. Do not give it any Emmy nominations. To the Academy, do not nominate for a fucking thing. Ignore it. Cancel it. Dismiss it. Treat like the way you all did Queen and Slim, which Queen and Slim got no love by the Academy. Thank God. And it doesn't. It's terrible. It's trauma porn. And people say, what is trauma porn? Trauma porn is pretty much a romanticized, grotesque depicting of violence and horrific experiences. But when we talk about trauma porn, we often talk about it when it refers to marginalized people. So the brutality, the grotesque brutality that is done stylishly as an aesthetic more than an actual historical note is trauma porn. This is art that is proposing itself to be art, but it's actually just romanticized, glorified images of black people being abused, tortured, raped, and everything else in between. I cannot tell you how many scenes are still piercing at me. And I got paid to do a review for it, so there is a review I'm doing for The Grill about it. But this is the work I do. And my sensitivity notions and my triggers, I have to, make sure they're more, together. But my God, it is not good TV. It's not necessary TV. Nobody asks for it. Nobody needs this. And we've been talking about this in previous episodes. We talked about, the situation with, oh gosh, Ava DuVernay, who had the Queen Sugar episode. And that was hard. And it was like no violence. And then the crazy thing is I looked at the previous episode, which I'm not trying to tell it all, but like Blue was having nightmares about it. It's like the little boy, the little adorable little baby named Blue, well, baby boy. He reminds me of my youngest brother, Caden. He's just so special and just reminds me of him. And it's just, it's heart-wrenching. And it's like, why? Why do I need this? Why do I need to see this? I am Black. I live this way. I know what these things are. And so when I saw a show like Them, called Them, right? I asked the question, who was this for? Who is it for? Because I'm just going to say, if it was meant for Black people, you can't say you love Black people and watch this show. You can't say that you care about the culture, preserving it, if you watch this show and support this show. There's no way that you can say you are for Black people and create garbage-ass trash like this. I don't know how anybody can support this. It's garbage. It's garbage. I can't. And there's all these people that like to do this whole, we got to support our people, support Black art, support Black people, support Black art. Listen, I'm not supporting Black people that is exploiting our pain for profit. I repeat that again. I am not supporting Black people that exploit our pain for profit. There is now a Black pain economy. Okay, the Black pain economy is real, y'all. I'm not even talking on some conspiracy level shit. It's real. There are people that make profit off of seeing us get skinned, hanged, lynched, abused, raped, tortured, sodomized. I mean, there is a business in producing this imagery for studios and for books and for content. And there's people who just run that fucking Black trauma pain train. For some reason, why is it that raw, real, and provocative for Black people is often rooted in blood, sweat, and tears? Why is it that that is always the currency for Black art to be lifted and to be vaulted and to be validated and canonized? But by white people often, white industries and academia perpetuate this notion that the only way that we can show a level of depth is to show our pain, that there's some creative force that behind the pain is there. Why isn't there no value? How come we can't see the power of our joy and also our nuance or our strength, our resilience, our brilliance, executed in those ways? I'm not saying juxtapose pain with joy, but what about something in between? What about something that's revolutionary? I would love to see more Black people, powerful Black people in power, warriors. I want to see creativity. I want to see vulnerability that isn't rooted in our suffering. I've seen enough. I've seen enough. I've seen enough of it. I have seen enough for a lifetime. And for this show, this stupid fucking show, to come out the week that all of this is happening, you have Dante Wright, you have the George Floyd, you have the Derek Chauvin trial happening, DMX's death. You have all of this stuff. Protests are happening. We look like it's going to be a second wave of the racial uprisings happening. All of this is happening, and you're going to put out a show like this? Are you fucking crazy? There's another show, it's a short film that's being nominated for an Oscar right now that has a scene where it's been a viral image, and it's on Netflix, a short film. I don't even know what it's called. And you know what? I'm not even going to name it because I don't need us to see this. This show of this scene where the brother is dead on the floor, and his blood spills out, and it is in the shape of the continent of Africa. I'm done. I'm done. I literally threw my hands up. I was like, out. Seacrest out. Ernest out. I'm out this joint. I'm out this joint. I'm out this piece. I cannot. Okay? I cannot. I mean, this is the shit that we're dealing with here, artistically. This is the kind of stuff. This is the quote unquote art. This is the work. This is the art that they keep pushing down our throat. And then I hear stories about creators who are trying to push positive stories, and not want to say positive, but just nuanced stories. and they're struggling. Creators are struggling. They, because everybody keeps saying Black people don't want to read that. They don't want to see that. And so we struggle, with that. I've always said that anything I put out, y'all, I don't want it to be censoring pain. I don't want to censor pain. I mean, yeah, I can't. So people are asking me, what should I watch? What should I watch if I don't want to watch them? I mean, if you care about history, if you really care about something different, something more nuanced, something more thought provoking, there is this really great, this really impressive, like documentary series on HBO, um, that I've really have found interesting. It just came out. It's on HBO Max, which HBO Max has been doing some interesting work. There's a brand new show, and I'm trying to I've really been interested in it. It's called Exterminate All the Brutes. Love it. Highly recommend it. If you're looking for education, if you're looking for something that has real nuance, something that has an intellectual value, a history, and I recommend it for people who are white to, to really get involved in it. And it's great. I'm a big fan of it. I really think the program, the whole production, it's academics, it's Black academics, historians, people who've been doing this history. It talks beyond just slavery. It just talks about the whole European system. If you want to understand not just white supremacy, but just understand the global history of the world under the lens of natives and other people, you'll find out who the real brutes are. And it's well done. It's brilliant. I can't say anything bad about it, and I really recommend that people give it a read, because it's definitely something, and I've been a fan. Been a fan. Speaking of things I'm not a fan of, because this has been a thing. This speaking about pain. So Patrisse Cullors, who is one of the co-founders of Black Lives Matter, has been in the news. Okay, she's been in the news based on this $1.4 million house that she bought in California, in LA. She has a $1.4 million house. She considers herself a trained Marxist, which has been getting scrutinized around Marxism because she's a self-proclaimed trained Marxist. But people raised eyebrows when she bought a $1.4 million house in LA in a largely white neighborhood. Patrisse Cullors is 34. She is a known artist, an organizer, and a freedom fighter is how she describes herself. But she's got a 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom home in Topanga Canyon with a separate guest house and expansive backyard. I mean, everyone's talking about her house. But there's been a lot of criticism because, the Associated Press had did a story recently last year that said that Black Lives Matter collected $90 million in donations, even though people do not know whether how much she got paid by the organization or its finances. I mean, it's kind of opaque, is how people are describing it. But, she has, made a name for herself, over the years, especially, last decade. She won all types of awards. And I mean, people got pictures of her house. I mean, the pictures are on the internet. Everyone's talking about her property. It's a big deal. And the crazy thing is that apparently only 1.8% of the population of her in her area, okay, is Black, and it's 88% white residents. So it's interesting. She's been facing a lot of controversy about it, and Twitter's been going off. Someone was saying, quote, "We're talking about generational wealth off of the deaths and struggle of Black folks here. Justice Teams Network and Black Lives Matter founder was paid $1.4 million for a house for home. This past week, we bought a cot for our unhoused Black elder friend to keep him off the ground." A lot of people are talking about this. They say Cullors identifies as a communist and advocates for the abolishment of capitalism. However, she's making this type of money. A lot of people are just criticizing her, Patrisse Cullors. And it's just a lot of people that are, calling her a race hustler. It's a lot of things being said. And Black Lives Matter put out, the organization Global Black Lives Matter Network put out a statement that claimed that she only got six figures, and this was like a while back. But they tried to say, and I actually am going to read their statement because I am still a journalist, and I do commentary, but I do want to just state for the record what they said. People need to, I will say, read. Read it as you may. I'm not reading it as fact. I'm just reading it as, how it was said. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. Because there's a lot being said out here in these streets. And, I'm going to, I want to, that's what I said. I want to find their statement because I want to make sure that I say it right. They put a statement out to the public. There's been a lot of articles written, a lot of speculation about their money. And, it's been a lot because the statement itself, I felt like it had a lot of ambiguity. But, people have been criticizing the Black Lives Matter network, not the movement, but the network. And, it's been a lot. So here's the statement. It is Black Lives Matter Global Network Fund Statement on False and Dangerous Story. The following statement is issued by Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation in response to a false and defamatory article being amplified by right-wing media. Patrisse Cullors is executive director of Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation. She serves in this role in a volunteer capacity and does not receive a salary or benefits. Patrisse received a total of $120,000 since the organization's inception in 2013 for duties such as serving as spokesperson and engaging in political education work. Patrisse did not receive any compensation after 2019. To be abundantly clear, as a registered 501c3, Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation cannot and did not commit any organizational resources toward the purchase of personal property by any employer or volunteer. Any insinuation or assertion to the contrary is categorically false. Patrisse's work for Black people over the years has made her and others who aligned with the fight for Black liberation targets of racist violence. The narratives being spread about Patrisse have been generated by right-wing forces intent on reducing the support and influence of a movement that is larger than any one organization. This right-wing offensive not only puts Patrisse, her child, and her loved ones in harm's way, it also continues a tradition of terror by white supremacists against Black activists. All Black activists know the fear these malicious and serious actions are meant to instill. The fear of being silenced, the trauma of being targeted, the torture of feeling one's family is exposed to danger just for speaking out against unjust systems. We have seen this tactic of terror again, time and again, but our movement will not be silenced. End quote. So, again, applying my communications lens, my communication management lens, dissecting the statement, not going to do a whole surgery of it, but I would say that I think the problem here is that there are people that are making some false insinuations. There are some people that I know that I respect out here in the business that's been organizing in Ferguson. Someone like Ashley Yates, who has been very outspoken about the way this money and the way that the Black Lives Matter network has been moving. I think Ashley Yates has raised several points. She's on Twitter as Brown Blaze, @BrownBlaze, and she has really has done some, just really has been talking a lot about it, being very critical, and has not been silent about the critique she has about how this organization as a global unit has been doing this work. And so it's a very interesting it's observation to just see that even, let's be very clear, there are Black people within organizing activism spaces, credible Black organizers and activists who have been critical about the way the Black Lives Matter network, the organization, not the movement. Let's be very clear, not the movement has been, because the movement to protect Black and brown people, to protect Black people against police violence, I think everyone's clear that that needs to happen. What the issue is how people go about, leveraging that. And there are people that say one thing and then do another. There's people that say they're Marxists, but then get pulled over by Maybachs and have Maybachs. There's people who say they are, Marxists, but then they buy $1.4 million houses. People find contradictions in this and critique it. And there's been a lot of interesting things that Patrice has been doing lately. There was a video that was going around showing her dancing in this very, some people describe it as a step and fetch it way, at a museum, trying to tell people to dance out racism or come together and dance out. And this gave this very stump out the racism. It's like, what are you doing? And it was just really weird. And she was dancing, and it just looked really weird and performative and awkward. She probably got a lot of money, because a lot of these institutions and these corporations do like to use the likability of Black activists and movements to try to push their own capitalistic endeavors. And it's been kind of sad to see her go in that direction. A lot of people have talked about, for example, Tamika Mallory and that, car commercial that she did, so many questionable things. And I just find it that, at this point in the game where we're in a different position and place to really, make change, make a difference. And I want to see that change. You know what I'm saying? But let's really get into it. Let's keep it 100. Let's do it. Let's talk about the changes. Let's talk about how the movement should move forward. I do think, there was a question that was asked to me by one of my good friends. They were saying to me, at what point do these bigger, larger life, quote unquote, activists or organizers should step back when they get to this certain height of money? There's never one right answer. If you're asking my opinion, right, this is Ernestly speaking, myself. I think that when you get to a point where you are losing serious visibility and connection to grassroots activism, like meaning on the ground foot soldiers, you should take a step away from the movement in the proximity of an organizer. Maybe you become a funder. Maybe you become the person that invests. Maybe you throw your money and the wealth that you've accumulated for various reasons back into the communities to which you once was on the ground for. Because maybe your visibility could be a distraction to the movement. It could be a distraction to those local organizers and those foot soldiers. Maybe you become the funder. Maybe you become the philanthropist in that kind of way. And I think that maybe that is the cycle, right? Because capitalism in this country is a bitch, right? I think maybe that's the way, in my opinion. Some people will, in this movement, will by default be made. This is Black Lives Matter is supposed to be a decentralized movement anyway. But if you become that person where you're getting thrown opportunities and given these global platforms and things, maybe that's the part where you say, you know what? I can't be the face of the movement. I can't be the face of the grassroots organizers, the groundwork, because I'm no longer have time, because you're too busy doing book deals, your movie deals, and all these different things in this activism capacity where it looks like you're profiting off of the pain. So if you're going to go in the sense of messenger and ambassador, then you need to step aside and groom and train and empower fiscally and emotionally, or even, with that labor, that wisdom, that intellectual, that education, right? Put that into the ground foot soldiers on the ground to continue the work. And then do your speaking tours, do whatever you're going to do, get the money and keep using your money and using your voice to amplify in that kind of way. But I think the problem is that these people want to do both and they can't. They want to pocket millions of dollars. They want to be on the ground and talk at rallies when it's convenient for them. They want to do movie deals, book deals, and then they want to still have their fists up and act like they are on the ground able to do that. Because ground organizing, as someone who has covered that type of local grassroots organizing, as someone who was on the ground covering it as a journalist and talking to those people, that work is not easy. It is not. It is not just make some fucking signs and go. The real organizers are doing, well, let me not say real. I mean, direct actions, y'all. Okay? They are doing work that is not within the confines. There's civil disruption. They are doing a different type of form of activism and demonstration that is not yo mamas. We're going to come out with flags and signs and we're going to make sure we get a permit. They're doing work that does not have permits. Their protests and their direct actions, there's no permits. There's no asking the state to make way for them. They make way. And as a journalist who have covered that type of activism for early 5 years ago when I first started my career, in Philadelphia doing this type of hardcore journalism, I remember those days. I mean, 5 years ago, y'all, it was only 5 years ago that I was up and running every single day. It felt like in the fall, just, on the ground. When the Black and Brown Workers Collective, now they're the Black and Brown Workers Cooperative, was on the ground protesting. And now, I don't, because of the pandemic, I haven't gone to that many risings and protests, but I still cover some of it, or still engage with the protesters to get insight about some of the stuff they're doing, against my alma mater, University of Pennsylvania. There was a victory that just came with the crania. There was a collection of enslaved crania and remains of Black elders' ancestry. And a Black organizer named Abdul Ali Muhammad, who's Black and queer, they, them pronouns, they really led the charge for this for several years. For 2 years, they've been writing op-eds, creating petitions, and then did a direct action and protest outside of the museum last week. And they have been leading the charge, and their work successfully got them to take out the crania out of the museum, which was last summer, which was a big deal. The thing is, though, is that outside of that, they also had demands about not only removing the crania, removing this, right, out of the museum, but giving it, working with clergy, working with spiritual leaders to remove it and send it back to the ancestors and the family. And so now there is a process being in place because of Abdul Ali Muhammad's work that hopefully this will change the conversation. And really set the tone for other museums. So Penn Museum is one, but let's see these other museums that are holding these remains of Black enslaved people. It needs to go back to the family. They deserve the remains. Send it back to Africa. Send it back to wherever it came from. But these people deserve that, and that's important. So I say all that to say that this local organizing work is different. And people like the Patrisse Cullors of the world, the D. Rays and others. I don't really want to talk about the other man, the white man who says he's Black. But these others, Tamika Mallory's and them, maybe it's okay to shift your visibility in that way, because you can't do both. You can't be in front of a Lincoln car commercial, or Cadillac commercial, and be outside of a Cadillac commercial and at the same time talking about, racial justice in the ways of an own grassroots organizer. I just think it blurs the lines, the credibility gets questioned, and then so much of the time that could be used to talk about activists, and talk about the people that matter, we don't see that happen because we're too busy dealing with concerns around credibility and people being legit and all of that jazz. So maybe you should just let go or evolve into a different position. Or because your tactics might be a little too capitalistically fucked up, y'all may need to take a seat. But other people who might be straddling that fence are questioning what next happens. Y'all need to probably just transition. But these people, maybe they need to take a backseat. I don't even know if I want Tamika Mallory to do anything with activism. I mean, to be honest, gosh. Okay. So other news. So, I'm a big fan of vaccinations. I want people to get vaccinated for COVID. I think it's important too, as you all know. I'm fully vaccinated. My partner is Dr. Ayla Stanford at the Black Doctors COVID-19 Consortium is doing the work. There has been a concern with the recent Johnson & Johnson vaccine. A couple of people, less than 10 people, I think, reportedly had issues with blood clot that they're saying could be connected to Johnson & Johnson vaccine. And so now vaccination clinics are holding off on administering it at the moment. And, there's a lot of panic and concern and worry. But I want to say this, and I'm not, I want to say this about it, and I want to be very clear, right? This is important, and you know, if there's people, some people will have more incidents, but it's reportedly 6. But like that small number, mind you, guys, we've passed 100, and I think over 100 and over 140 million people have been vaccinated, maybe more, 186, I think I read. But it's over 100 million people have been vaccinated in this country. We're like a third, maybe a little close to getting close to half. I think half of the population. But people are getting vaccinated, y'all. Like folks are getting vaccinated, and the numbers are really high. People are just getting vaccinated, and you know, Johnson is special because it was the one you done, and a lot of people are making jokes about that, saying, you know, it's this, it's that. There's a lot of concerns about it, but I just want to say this, not to diminish anyone's experience, but when you're talking about mass vaccinations, six people having, you know, a problem with the vaccine does not warrant massive like panic attacks and people being cynical. Because let me tell you something. In this country, there are many things that have killed people, more people than the Johnson & Johnson vaccination. I mean, let's start with the police. I mean, come on. I just named 18 people that got killed by the police, innocent. Okay? The patriarchy is killing everybody for various ways. Okay? Gender reveal parties. A lot of people been dying from gender reveal parties. If you don't know what a gender reveal party is, it's when a dumbass decides that they want to determine the gender of their child. And by doing that, they said, you know what, because my child either has a vagina or penis, I am going to throw a party where somehow I'm going to do fireworks, explosions, or something to signify it, because unfortunately, just saying it's a girl, it's a boy, or just not necessarily having to make a big old party at all has now made people do things that have led to the deaths of people. And it's sad and unfortunate. And thoughts and prayers to those innocent people who have died. But at the same time, you didn't have to die doing those gender reveal parties. Like, why are you doing all of that? Starting wildfires in California? I mean, it's ridiculous. So more people have died from that than the Johnson vaccine. Mind you, blood clots are not, people did not die for the blood clots, but that was one of the concerns. Public schools in poor conditions. I mean, asbestos, lead in the water, other toxic chemicals that can also impermanate young children's brain cognition and development, which can then make them act more violently or sporadic related to those conditions. Yeah, those poor conditions in public schools, that is more lethal for Black people and for anybody for that matter. Islamophobia. Yes. Look at the wars we've had. Mass misinformation. Okay. Donald Trump's ignorance, his mass information. I mean, this is a man who's telling people to drink bleach. Okay. We have had more misinformation caused by social media that has led to the deaths than Johnson & Johnson. Let's keep going down the list. School shootings, public shootings, mass shootings, the ones with lack of gun control, killing us on a regular basis. But we still let the guns happen. Foreign war budgets. We out here going in countries in wars. A new story just came out that President Biden is actually planning to pull troops out of Afghanistan by September 11th, 2021. Y'all, that will be 20 years. 20 years of this war on terror. And how has it worked out for us? But again, many lives lost. Many. One of the longest wars we've had. 20 years. And I don't even think did we really solve the war on terror? I guess we became the terror. I don't know. So yeah, let's cancel that shit since we're so worried about the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. I just don't understand why people are acting so up in arms about the vaccine. I mean, my mom was telling me that we was just cracking up. We were talking about how, people have been, acting about vaccines. But did y'all know that in high school, you weren't allowed to go to school if you didn't get a flu shot? Okay, if you didn't get a flu shot, you couldn't go to school. If you didn't get a tetanus shot, you couldn't go to school. If you didn't get certain vaccinations, you couldn't go to the library. I mean, there was things you could not do if you did not have proper immunizations. So I remember when I was in high school, I think smallpox and all those shots, I didn't get a tetanus shot. And because I didn't get that tetanus shot, I was a perfect attendance kid. Okay, I was the kid that even with a high temperature, I would come to school. And you know what? Let me say that. Do not do that. See, back then, we was out here, you would touch your temperature, touch your forehead. You didn't care because you just really wanted to go to school. That's when school was fun. I mean, school is still fun. I mean, my brothers love school, but I remember the days where school was so lit that you didn't want to skip school. I mean, school was so lit, you was just like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to do my presentation. I can't wait to see my friends. I can't wait to, see something else that's going on at school that was not a part of the academic curriculum. But like anyway, I loved school. I loved going to school. I remember one time I had a high temperature and they made me go to school half the day. I missed the half of class, but because I did my attendance up top, I wasn't counted absent. But I remember that and it was an experience, y'all. But like when I came home, I was annoyed. I was so annoyed. I was like, I'm missing rehearsal. I was in theater arts. I was missing rehearsal for a play I was doing. I think I was doing Charles Dickens. Yeah, it was the Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, and I was Scrooge. I had the lead role. I remember I was missing it. We were past the phase of doing readings, so we weren't doing readings anymore. We were moving past readings, and we were doing like rough on the ground actual. We were doing off book. We were supposed to be off book. We was at that point supposed to just do rehearsals without costume, and so we were supposed to start making placement. I love doing plays. Oh, I love plays. Plays are so much fun. Think about my earlier thespian years. But and I actually got my Letterman jacket for doing theater arts. That's how much of a thespian I was. Like I got my Letterman jacket for the stuff because I didn't do sports, but I still went to varsity jacket. And at my high school, I think it was like speech and debate or whatever. You had to have a certain number of hours to qualify. And so if you got the same number of hours, you got your thespian hours and things, you could qualify for a Letterman jacket. And so listen, when I got really, really super smart, I stopped doing theater. Like I was like, once I found I was valedictorian, like I was like when I was on the trail to being valedictorian at the time, I became class president. I had like no time to do theater arts because I was getting ready for college and science fair and everything. And so I stopped theater arts my junior year, but my freshman and sophomore year, I did theater. And was in love with it, but then junior year I had to, get ready to get to the, get to the big leagues. But I had enough points though to get my Letterman jacket, and that was a game changer. I remember, at first being scared that I had enough points. Because they would update the points. So if you did a production, you got a lead role, you get a certain number of like these points that will qualify you, and then that would be the number. So I used to do everything to try to get those points. I did after rehearsals, I did shops, I did costume makeup design. I was competing for the positions to get those management positions because you get higher points for that. I mean, man, the high school years, man, were crazy. But anyway, I love school. I remember I couldn't do the first like off book reading, and people thought, oh, does he not on book? And so I was like, no, I memorized my lines. I actually remember to be off book before we was off book. But anyway, I was just such a diva. But like, I was a little annoyed. So I was mad because I couldn't do rehearsal. But I just remember like being like, damn, mom, we need to get this, shot. So anyway, the first day I came to school, I think it was like my sophomore year, they were asking for my immunization cards and they called up people's parents like, yo, your student cannot go to school until they get these shots. And so we literally had to go to some clinic or something, and I got shot up and then went back to school. So listen, we was always doing that. Like, who has kids? Who, like, people be out here. I'm like, do y'all have kids? Because if you have kids, you would know that this was the thing. Like, people was always getting vaccinations and stuff. Like, this is not a crazy. It's not rocket science, y'all. But people really take this stuff seriously. Like, they're really out here acting like they're gonna get a third arm or third leg, and that's not true. Okay, that is not true. People out here, um, ignorance, y'all, the ignorance. So that's going on. Okay, um, I'm not scared. Don't be scared. The vaccination is not going to hurt you. So somebody asked me about this, and honestly, I personally really don't care. But they said Bernie Madoff, 82 years old, died in prison. Okay. Bernie Madoff is the man who did the Ponzi scheme that ripped off thousands of Americans and caused people to be in financial ruin and ruined a lot of people's experiences and lives based on his actions. So excuse me for not being like the most empathetic. Not shitting on a man's death. I just don't. I don't know what I'm supposed to say. Notice, like, oh, speaking of which, because this is also that thing. So we had the royal wedding special a couple of weeks ago about not the royal wedding, but the royal family, the royal racism, the drama with Meghan Markle and Prince Harry with the family. So Prince Philip, who is the father, he's the wife, he's the husband of Queen Elizabeth, who is currently still living. He died at 99 years old. His wife, of course, his wife was Queen Elizabeth. Their son is Prince Charles. Prince Charles was married to Princess Diana. They had two children, which is Prince William and Prince Harry. Prince William is married to Kate Middleton, and Prince Harry is married to Meghan Markle. I have to make sure I get all the families aligned. So Prince Philip is the older elder. And then there's Prince Charles, who is married to Camilla after Princess Diana. And if you saw season 4 of The Crown, which I thoroughly enjoyed, they get into all that drama between Princess Diana and the family and all that drama. So it's the timeliness of this happening during the season, everything that's going on with the family. And then we're close to the anniversary of the death. There's a lot going on. The 30th anniversary of the death, actually. No. 25th anniversary is coming up, I suppose. So there's a lot going on with the royal family right now. But Prince Philip passed away on the same day as DMX, last Friday. And there was like a lot of issues on social media by some of our faves that was conflating these deaths. Kerry Washington, who is an Emmy-nominated actress, Little Fires Everywhere, Scandal, Confirmation, she's just a beast, right? Well, sometimes beasts make mistakes. Beasts in the industry make mistakes. And she tweeted something about DMX in heaven with Prince Philip. And it was just like, no, Kerry. Okay? This man was a colonizer. This man had Nazis in his family. This man was a part of the monarchy. This man comes from a family that was pretty damn fucking problematic. People are still trying to figure out who said what about little baby Archie, okay? So far on the tally list, they said that Prince Philip did not say it. So that's what they're claiming. So then the question becomes, was it Charles? And so there's some speculation that it might be Prince Charles. We don't know. Or Prince William. I wouldn't rule his ass out either. But we know that it's not Prince Philip. And we know it's a man. Or at least we've been told that it wasn't... Well, we've been told that it wasn't the Queen or Prince Philip. So that got ruled out. But I still have Prince Charles in the cards. Or William. William problematic too. But one of them said it. I figure. Because, if Camilla said it, they would have just said Camilla said it. I don't think Camilla said it. I guess she technically wouldn't be a mistress according to the AP style guide. A mess. So, anywho, there has been a lot of conflation. And there's always this expectation that, with black people, I'm not saying we got to be selfish. I don't know if the word is selfish. I just think we don't have to always feel like we have to acknowledge people that didn't give a fuck about us. I don't think Prince Philip or the royal family gave a fuck about black people. I really don't. The way that they've done Meghan Markle and this baby, I don't think they do. And I don't think that we as black people need to feel this obligation to always give out so much of ourselves to people who just don't for us. I'm not saying that has to be the way for everything. I'm just saying that on the day that DMX died, I did not do the whole, oh my God, Prince Philip died. He was a member of the... I don't have no ties to the royal family like that. I just don't. It's... No. Our hip-hop, royal... Hip-hop royalty died. A member of hip-hop royalty passed away. Flawed man who had many mistakes, but the man was royalty in hip-hop, and he passed away. And that was the only royal member of the highest level that I acknowledged their death that day. So with Bernie Madoff, I mean, this man is, that was so funny. Someone, I won't even say who this person is at all, but an older member called me. It's not funny, but they were like, Ernest, did you see the news? I said, what's the news? Bernie Sanders died. I said, Bernie Sanders died. And I hadn't, mind you, I hadn't checked my phone because I get the alerts on the New York Times. And they were like, Bernie Sanders. I said, Bernie? Not Bernie. No, Bernie. They said Bernie died. They just said Bernie. They didn't say, they assumed Bernie Sanders. But they said Bernie. And I was like, Bernie? I mean, Bernie is old. Okay, Bernie is old. I was like, Bernie Sanders died? What? I was heartbroken. I was getting a little emotional. This was hitting. I said, oh Lord. I just had my hands up. I was not like, oh my God, this is too much. I just could not take this. So I go and Google, I'm like, Bernie Sanders dead, right? The articles kept going, Bernie Madoff. And then the headline was Bernie Madoff. I was like, no. Bernie Madoff died. And then they were like, who is that? The man who did the Ponzi scheme who ripped off all people. Oh, child, fuck him. And then we got the phone. That's the reaction. That was the reaction I got when people realized that it wasn't Bernie Sanders, but Bernie Madoff. Wrong old white man. So. This episode, man. Let me just get this all together. So there's been conversation about Usher with this fake stripper money scandal. What the fuck, Usher? I listen. I believe that if you are a sex worker and you're working in a safe environment, you're doing consensual work, and you're working in a haphazardous, you're not working in a dangerous environment, and you're doing it ethically and doing it in ways that are safe and all of those things, right? That you should be compensated for your labor. And sex work is labor. There are people who do consensual sex work as a means of personal enjoyment and investment. That is a vocational desire, whether they want to be a stripper, adult entertainment, exotic performer, whatever the case might be. I believe that if adults have agency in that, okay, because I believe in adults doing sex work, labor. I don't believe in children doing that. That is not, that's, no, there's no such thing. Somebody needs to tell Matt Gaetz that. Just because they should tell Matt Gaetz that congressman who's being currently now investigated by the House committee on his alleged behavior. So Usher, okay, he's first of all, he's a Libra. He is claiming there was allegations, but he's trying to clean it up, because there was a lot of big old things being said, because there was some Instagram posts and someone says, ladies, what would you do if you danced all night for Usher and he threw this? And they shed the money. And then someone said the money does not have a trade in value whatsoever. Don't y'all think he should be blasted on social media for this? So for all of this, the internet went crazy about it because he allegedly made it rain on strippers with fake ass money. Okay? And it had his face on it with the new look. Okay, the new Usher. All right, so there was so many Usher bucks. There was $100, $20, and there was even some that were $1 bills, y'all. And his face was on it instead of like dead presidents and Benjamin Franklin. Creep. So, there was a lot of talk about this, and the performer put this out there to let people know what was up. So then the drama was that someone said he ended up, so someone said that, there was a lot of Usher memes and people talking. But someone said all of this happened at Sapphire in Vegas, which is a Vegas strip club. And someone said, a rep for the club had told media that Usher did not tip the strippers with the fake money and actually gave out real money while also going on to tip the staff largely and generously. So he actually did give people money. It was a rumor. And so Usher and the company ended up spending $1,000 on the dancers, real thousands, and they had great bottle service. And they said, which he didn't cover with those Usher bucks, and said they would love him to come. The place called Sapphire in Vegas would love him to come. And then there's some more intel on the joke. I don't know if y'all saw Usher. He was on his Instagram looking good, and he had a suitcase with his fake money in it, and teasing out this whole situation. But like it was a rumor, and you know, some people were just trying to make him look bad or they wanted attention. But apparently, that was those dollars were promotional. So Usher has addressed the issue, but for one day, Usher was dragged on social media. That being said, because I just, I do my research. This is not an uncommon thing. There is a history of men going to strip clubs and places like that and putting out fake money. Not at all pictures of themselves as Usher, but I'm so happy Usher didn't do it because he's a Libra and Libras play games like that. Like his birthday is October 14th. My birthday is October 12th. And so I was like, Usher, this got to be a stunt, Daddy. Come on, Daddy. Come on, Daddy. Like it's got to be a stunt. Please let it be a stunt. Don't make us be out here looking bad. And so he didn't make us look bad. He was just doing the most, which is what we do. Us Libras do the fucking most, which is basically not only am I going to give y'all real money, but I'm going to actually give you money with my face on it. That is such a well, now that we know he gave the real money, now I can take a breath of relief because I would so do something like that. But I would give real money first. But that being said, it's hard out here. But there are men who do go to strip clubs and do give out fake money. And I've heard stories of rappers in Philadelphia going to strip clubs and giving out counterfeit money and things like that. With everything going on in the world, pay these women. And if you don't got it like that, you know what you could do? Get a credit card and rent out adult entertainment. Use your fake money, throw it on yourself or throw it on the screen while you're watching some porno subscription. I don't know, but like pay people. If you don't got that lifestyle, don't go to the strip club. Don't do that to them. I'm so invested in this. Don't do that to them. Give them the real money. Stop playing on people's money. Period. So, well, okay, I have one little story. I have been to a strip club. When I was just had graduated from college, me and my best friend, Jamarcus, went with someone we knew at the time, and we went to Atlantis. And Atlantis was not anything glamorous, let me mind you. No, Atlantis was known for having a nice little lunch special in the daytime, free food. Now, mind you, even we didn't eat the food there, but we had heard about it, and it used to be so. If you are in Philadelphia, Atlantis Gentlemen's Club was on 38th and Chestnut, and it was right there where the old Chili's used to be. And right under that Chili's was Atlantis, and it was a small little. It was crept up under, but there was a big Chili's there. That location is dead. Like there's no Chili's there. There's no Atlantis, I believe, and there's nothing happening inside of that place anymore. But there used to be a Chili's. There used to be a lot going on, but it's not there anymore. But back then there was, and so we went there, and we came with some stacks. We didn't have stacks of Benjamins, but we did have some fives and some ones. And it wasn't too much action going on there, but it was enough for us to tip and show up. And we had cocktails and had a good old little time and supported the sex workers. And, it was my first time going out to a strip club. My fiance went to Onyx once with one of his homegirls who's actually in his wedding party. She's actually the one wearing the tux. And I was like, well, what did you think? And then my friend, my bestie, Jamarcus, I think he went to KOP or KOD out in Miami, that strip club or whatever. He went out there and he said it was, he said he had a good old time. I've always wanted to go to Atlanta, go to Magic City. I don't know if it's still open anymore, probably not. I don't know what strip clubs are open. I never really been to it, but he went out in Miami to a strip club and he had a good old time. And we went to cisgender, straight strip clubs. And it's just a lot. So, strip clubs. So, support sex workers legally and ethically, and do so because what they do is essential work, and they deserve to be paid for it. So, PSA over. I endorse those strippers. So there is other buzz, because I'm just going through the motions, y'all. There's some tea. People been asking me about this, and I don't really have, I don't know how I feel about this. I mean, so there is a guy, a former bachelor named Colson Underwood, and he comes out as gay. He does an exclusive interview with Robin Roberts, who is lesbian, black woman, met her. She's fabulous. he basically said, quote, that I've ran from myself for a long time. I've hated myself for a long time. And I'm gay. And I came to terms with that earlier this year and have been processing it. And the next step in all of this was sort of letting people know. I'm still nervous, but yeah, it's been a journey for sure. People are talking about him. You know, he was on a bachelor looking for women, looking for a woman. But there was conversations, you know, Roberts asked him, basically among others, you know, how would some of the women ask about the women feeling misled, would understand why they think that way. And he says he's thought about that. He said, do he regret being on The Bachelor? And do he regret handling it the way he did? He says he thinks he could have handled it a lot better, which is a lot. I mean, when I looked at him, I'm not going to go there. Okay, I just wanted to say that, you know, because, I'm in the community, so sometimes we can say things other people can't say. I don't want to do the whole, I could tell, who was he fooling, who was he hiding, because a lot of straight people try to do that kind of stuff, and I don't think it's acceptable. So I'm not going to play into that. But how you doing? So one of the things that was interesting about this conversation was that a lot of my black male friends, okay, black queer friends, said to me, let me clarify, black gay friends, not, there were men, black gay men in my circle that were in the community. We've been having this conversation like all like day to day about it, and was like threads about it, talking about it. It was like, everybody's like doing the, oh, he came out, oh. But, I wonder if he was black, how the conversation would have been framed. Okay, you would have heard the narrative about the DL, the down low. And there was a lot of criticism because of that author who, I gotta keep it 100. He wrote this book. This man wrote this book on the down low. I'm going to talk about the origins of that because I just, because I'm the historian me. And I get so annoyed about this. But this book came out in 2004. It's called On the Down Low, A Journey into the Lives of Straight Black Men Who Sleep with Men. It was a New York Times bestseller. It was a nonfiction book. It was written by J.L. King. It came out in 2004. And he went on Oprah and really started to push this narrative. And at the time, people thought it was a groundbreaking book, that it was like a revolutionary book, that he was talking about this. And when I tell you it is one of the most reckless fucking pieces of text I've ever read in my life as a black queer person, I was disgusted. I read the book a couple years ago, just studying it and things. And it created the narrative that has now created the stigma, the over-stigmatization. It did more harm than it did good. Because what it did was it created a fetish. It created a new subculture that necessarily did not need to be exploited in that way, but it was very exploitative. And to be very clear, J.L. King is black, but he did a lot of stereotypes. It was a lot of perpetuation of stereotypes that, these men were living private lives, they were sleeping with other men, they were contracting HIV, they were given to straight women. And while this was, there is experience of that nature, what it did was it not only created, it was a cut your nose and smite your face is the best description. So in this pursuit to try to create this narrative and this understanding of these men who were quote unquote on the DL, it vilified gay people. It essentially vilified gay people. And there has since been books that were written that have countered a lot of those narratives. One of the books was written by this incredible guy. His name is Keith Boykin. Keith Boykin wrote a book that countered that narrative. And I love Keith Boykin's book. I think it really humanized. He's also a black gay man who really, characterized this. And the book he came out with, which came out in 2005, called Beyond the Down Low, Sex, Lies, and Denial in Black America. And what he did, Keith Boykin did in this book, which I thought was really great, was that he basically said, let's unpack why these men live the lives they do. Let's unpack how this is not an issue that's just self-inflicted based on homophobia or self-hate, but that this is actually created by a social society. That he got into talking about the racial confines of black men, society, this country, religion, the role of the black church, the role of American society of discrimination against LGBTQ people, which remember in 2004, 2005, that was still in existence. So we got to understand that this narrative around being on the DL, if you was in 2004, society basically, you had Bush in office doing Don't Ask, Don't Tell, Defense of Marriage Act. I mean, no one wanted to protect us. So technically, they were perpetuating a system, an institutional system that was meant to discriminate and to keep us from being our true selves. And when we know that a lot of black people live in the Deep South, when we know in those areas that are still segregated on racial ends, still being segregated by issues of racism, issues of voting rights that are still being fucked over. I mean, there are now companies now unifying once again to tell Georgia, hands off of the voting rights of black voters, right? This was not we're still dealing with those issues. We still don't have the Equality Act, which will provide LGBTQ protections for us on a federal level across the board. But back in 2004, there was none of that. There was like civil unions was like barely a thing. It was like a Massachusetts Vermont thing. But there was not this big push for marriage equality. Most of the country was not in favor of marriage equality at that time. Democrats and Republicans both agreed at that time. I mean, remember, Bill Clinton was in support of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. I mean, he pushed the Defense of Marriage Act, and Bush also wanted to come in and do other amendments to stop gay marriage. I mean, these people were against us, and everyone loves to talk about Bush now and all this, but these people had strong conservative views. Okay, it was a lot of that. It was a lot of neoliberal politics and shit. I mean, it was just a lot of that moderate, right, values. I mean, early Obama, when he first ran for president, was not crazy about, gay marriage at the time. But of course, he became one of the most progressive LGBTQ allies and advocates we've seen in the White House at the time. But people can change. I just think that what's important here to understand, and I say all this to say that that culture when that book came out. So the issue is he went on Oprah, JL King, and he spoke so much about this and really made a killing off of this narrative. And then what happened is many black gay men, was impacted by it. I mean, his book, he did another book called The DL Exposed, which is a documentary. I mean, I'm sorry, he did a documentary that won awards, was on BET. It was the number one most watched program on BET in 2006 called The DL Exposed. I mean, he really pushed this narrative, and it's problematic. It's sad. And it's a lot of books that, that really just, it just created a subculture. And to this day, there's still people that think like that. I know when I was, when I talk to people, I was, out and about, people ask me, what you think about this? And what you think about men on DL? What do you think about trade and the term trade and, all this stuff? And it's still a thing. I have straight people I know, my, networks. I wouldn't say friends, but like they're obsessed with those conversations. Like they think I'm like the gaydar man. Like every time I see a gay man, or a man they think might be gay. I remember there was this one woman who I was an acquaintance with. She would send me a picture, and every time she'd send me a picture, I'd be like, "Is he gay?" I'm like, "How am I supposed to know?" "Oh, I don't know if you saw him around. Around where? The neighborhood?" "No, sis." But like I had people who would do that, and it was so problematic. And I'm just like, and then it's always weird when people be obsessed to know what a person's sexual orientation is, because like, well, why are you asking? Why does it matter? Why do you need to know? Like, do you low key want to like fuck them? Like, do you have a crush? Like why do you want to know unless you want to date them? Like, what's the purpose? Do you have a crush on them? Well, then shoot your shot and find out. Like, I don't know. I just think that it's always been uncomfortable and awkward to see people, press people on their sexual orientation or be obsessed with it in that way. And we live in a society that as much as they say they ain't with that gay shit, they be all up in that gay shit. So, I say all that to say that this situation with this bachelor, the conversation was with my black queer friends was like, if this man was a white man, would we be having this same conversation? Like, if this was a white man, would we be? I mean, if this was a black man, would we? What would the response be? We know what the response would have been. The response would have been, I don't know about that. It would have been very side eye. It would have been very shady. And so I just think we're at this point where we are recognizing these trends and these patterns. So I just, be nice, be cool to people, y'all. Don't be a dick. For real, for real. All right. So, I saw this wrapping up because it's been a week. Take it easy out there. Take it easy out there. I say that with all due respect. Take it easy out there. Stop being hard on yourself. Breathe. Breathe. I am breathing. I've been lighting my Vanessa Lynn collection candles. This moonlight candle is the shit, y'all. I love it. I haven't even opened the other candle she gifted me, this lovely tropical candle. But I love my Vanessa Lynn candles, y'all. I'm so in love with them. And my girls, oh my God, Shea Theory. If you have not heard about this Black-owned women products, they sell these lovely all-natural products called Shea Theory. They're beautiful. They do stuff for skin. They do shipping. It's lovely. But I've just been taking it easy. I have some very, very great news. I can't say anything right now, y'all. It's coming, I promise. But I have so many good things coming up in the works, and I'm in a really good place. And I just know that the most important thing I can do, and I want you all to do, protect your joy. Protect your joy. Because honestly, we're in a society where people don't protect joy. People don't respect space. People do not respect boundaries. People do not respect your time. And you got to be in a position where you have to take agency for yourself. Don't let yourself feel guilt tripped into doing things you don't want to do if you don't have to. I mean, just really take that time to breathe. I had a group that wanted me to come, y'all, and speak about police brutality. And they weren't paying. And there was a white group that was like, oh, we're having this racial panel on police brutality with the light of these things. We would love for you to have your voice. And I said, okay, well, I'm a public speaker. I would like to see what is your honorarium and what are your rates? What do you pay? Do you pay writers? Do you pay speakers? They're like, oh, well, we don't have a budget for this, but we really would love you. I said, no, I don't have the time. And I said, no. Because I'm not going to allow my expertise and my emotional stress be exploited in that kind of way. Pay me for my labor, pay me for my writing, pay me for my time when it comes to these types of things. The only grace I have is for children. I will speak to a public school. I will speak to Black kids. If I have the time, I will speak to Black kids in public schools for free. I've been doing it for many years. I don't publicize it. I don't put it out on the internet, but I do. And a lot of people come to me, they reach out and they say, hey, my kids need to be inspired. They need to be motivated. And I know the work that you're doing, and if a person like you in that room would spark a light for them, do it. And I do it. I give it my time for children because they're innocent. But adults, grown-ass adults that have money and budgets and have all these titles, no, I don't do that. I have been in situations where there's been organizations where this woman, I remember one organization, this woman was a coordinator who said she couldn't pay, and the guy who was the person trying to assemble this group, he came out of his pocket. He was the executive director and said, I will pay you out of my check. I got money. How much is your rate? I will pay you to come on this because that's how much I want you to do it. White people right now in this moment do not ask for a Black person or any person of color, Asians, Latinx, any people of color. Do not ask them to share trauma or discuss sensitive topics or any topics for that matter for free. If the company cannot pay it, you pay it. You Cash App them. You Venmo them. I have been in situations where I have asked for people to come on and help me with projects or things. And if there was a way I can help with food or something, I would provide something. But just giving people nothing when you're asking them to do tough shit like that ain't gonna cut it. Period. Respect them. Respect their time. Respect their labor. And people that do that, positive end note, I gotta give a shout out to Ben and Jerry's. Y'all, Ben and Jerry's is doing the fucking work. People talk about corporations and corporate responsibility, all of that. Ben and Jerry's is doing the motherfucking work. Ben and Jerry's have been, their Twitter account, they have been out here giving money to support black liberation causes and issues and organizations trying to do the work. They are using their social media platforms to say things like defund the police. They are doing graphics and visuals explaining to white people and people that don't fucking get it what defund the police means. They are pushing that narrative and they are still in business making money. People want to cancel them, I still buy from them. You know, my ass don't need no more ice cream, but I will keep buying Ben & Jerry's ice cream, okay? I love me some Ben & Jerry's ice cream. I love the cheesecake, the strawberry cheesecake flavor. I love the chocolate fudge, like the double chocolate one. What else do I like? I like Chunky Monkey for emotional reasons. What other flavors I like? Those are my favorite flavors. I always get them. And I have a CVS coupon, and every time they go and sell a CVS, I buy them. Because they're a little pricey, but they're worth the price because I know where the money's going. In this world, white people, if you don't know how to post about these issues, go on Ben and Jerry's page, retweet them, write how they write, talk how they talk about it, use their hashtags. They are setting the example. They've been setting the example. Oh, I cannot forget the Cherry Garcia is really, really good. Okay. So that is everything. In this world, white people be Ben and Jerry's, black people stay black and stay woke, and we're going to be all right. Love you all. Be best. Earnestly Speaking is recorded in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and can be found on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and SoundCloud. To stay up to date with the latest on the show, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Mr. Ernest Owens. Use the hashtag Ernestly Speaking to tell me what you thought about this episode, and check out my website at ernestowens.com.